Hi there, and welcome to another edition of the Gersnet Weekly Podcast, the independent Rangers podcast, which is brought to you by fans for fans, and where the content is absolutely free. It is episode 125 of the flagship show that we do every Sunday. I'm your host tonight. I'm Colin Armstrong. As I say all the time, guys, it's not just the podcast that we have here at Gersnet. We've got the forums. Get onto the forums. There's some good stuff going on in there. Articles, social media, history archive on the website as well. So get yourself on there as soon as you can. If this is the first time that you've joined us and you know are listening or watching the pod tonight, we would ask you to subscribe. Got over 4,000 subscribers at the moment, so going very well. Thanks to everyone who's subscribed so far and for staying with us. We're live tonight. The pod is live tonight on the Sunday night on the day that Rangers drew with Hamilton on each. That's the sort of main talking point of today. But the show will be available to download or stream on a variety of platforms, including Acast, iTunes, YouTube, Castbox, Stitcher, Spotify, all the usual places that you get your podcast, guys. I have two guests tonight, two esteemed guests. Esteemed.
Esteeming.
We've got Iain, Duff and Stewart here. Iain, how are you?
Not too bad, not too bad.
A bit down with that today?
Yeah, it wasn't the best, was it? But we move on.
I notice you're still enjoying your Top of the Pop stuff. A lot of tweeting on that on a Friday night when it goes out. 1990 at the moment.
That's it, 1990. I was 18. That was the peak years. It's been on downhill since then, basically.
I was 17. You're a year older than me. I was 17 in 1990. Yeah, good times. I'd only been working for about a year at that point in my life. So, yeah, good times. And we're also joined by Stewart, who it seems like he just sits in that. You've just been stuck in that cubbyhole for about the last 6 months of lockdown, Stewart.
One, it keeps me safe. It keeps me out of trouble. And two, it keeps everybody else safe and out of trouble. So it's maybe not a bad place to be here.
Yeah, you coping with lockdown then? I mean, it is starting to drag now, and it really is a bit of a drag.
It's starting to. There's a lot of people that I was saying to somebody during the week. A lot of people have been quite stoic and quite solid through the last year, and they're starting to become a bit frayed round the edges. And I think that can apply to so many people just now. I think people are sick and tired of this. And the thing is, it really is not getting any easier. It's not as if, everybody saw the vaccine as being some kind of magic bullet, and it's just not happening quick enough, I think.
No, it does feel like, as I've said a few times on the show, my wife's a nurse, and our hospitals, it's the worst it's ever been through the whole thing. It seems to be just getting worse. So, there is that sort of, silver lining in terms of the vaccine and stuff like that. But I do think it will take a while for it to get out and about, and normality still feels like a bit away. So, yeah. But anyway, we'll go into the game today, guys. Not the best of results and an even worse performance, arguably. It was a really poor performance overall today at Hamilton. Iain, I'll come to you first. Steven Gerrard described it as the worst performance of the season, and it's really, really difficult to disagree with that. There has been other occasions this season where we maybe haven't started so well, and other times when we've the last 20 minutes or so we've stepped off a bit. But for basically, apart from maybe a 10-15 minute period towards the end of the second half when we got the goal and it looked like we were controlling it a wee bit, there was really nothing from Rangers today. A really, really poor performance, and if it wasn't for Allan McGregor, you would have to fear the worst, I think.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt it's the worst performance overall the season. It's I suppose Livingston at the start of the season we thought at the time was pretty awful, but looking back at it, maybe Livingston are a bit better than we thought at the time, but and then St Mirren in the cup, the League Cup. But yeah, I think we need to put that down as a very bad day at the office. But didn't lose the game, so I suppose there's that silver lining to it. But that's about the only thing you could really say from it that was in any way positive, apart from maybe the goalkeeper's performance. But I don't think we would really want to have a positive about the goalkeeper's performance necessarily. I mean, that's probably the last thing we need at the moment. So, but yeah, no, pretty miserable. But let's hope it's just a one-off.
Sure. One thing that surprised me, at half-time, on the WhatsApp with a couple of mates and on Twitter and all that kind of thing, and the general feeling was, they can't be as bad in the second half as they were in the first half. And unusually, there was, I think Kent had a chance, really early on. We kicked off and ran up the park, and you kind of thought then, all right, it looks like we've had the sort of boot up the arse, so to speak, at half time. They've picked it up, but it was more of the same. If anything, McGregor had more to do in the second half. It really was a flat performance. It
was. I've criticised Rangers for several weeks now, usually around how slow they start matches, and they don't come out of the blocks. No, they're not Usain Bolt-esque coming out of the blocks. They really toilet times to get into their rhythm. You could make excuses for them. I don't think that they have ever been really, really comfortable playing at Willis Park or whatever the hell they call it now, and I think that's always been an issue. Recently with Rangers. The other thing is, again, you're looking for them to up their game. If they haven't had a good first half, you're looking for Steven Gerrard to make changes that is going to, have them playing a bit better. But I think it's even difficult for Gerrard just now. You've got to have a spark or a bit of inspiration from the actual players on the pitch before you can make any changes or make any significant changes to the way that you play. And I just don't think there was that. I think they were really, really flat. I'm reminded of Dick Advocaat during his first season at Rangers, and they I think it was Dunfermline. They off the back of losing to Celtic, they played at Ibrox and they drew one each, and it was a really, really flat performance. And Advocaat said, you have to remember that teams don't just turn up for you to beat them. They're going to try as well. And I think Acas have reached a stage where they're kind of reaching the stage of being desperate now because things are not happening for them. And I thought they showed a bit more spirit and a bit more conviction in terms of their performance than Rangers. And as a result, you only need to be 5% down in your performance, another team 5% better than they usually are, and you could find it difficult. And I think that's what happened to Rangers today.
Iain, I suppose we should mention Hamilton and all this. They did play well, and myself and Alex on the show on Friday had a good chat, and we did sort of mention that they're not a sort of team that sit back. They always kind of have a go, Hamilton, and it doesn't always work for them because it means they have a doing every now and again. But switching back to Rangers, Steven Gerrard, big changes in his, well, not big changes, but 3 changes to his starting lineup today. He brought in Zungu, he brought in Iain, and who else did he bring in? Kamara. Yeah, Kamara. Right. So, the two, I suppose we really need to look at is Zungu and Iain. I think Iain has done enough recently to merit a start. I had concerns about Roof starting today because he picked up an injury previously on an artificial surface, and I don't think it's the sort of surface that agrees with him. And he strikes me as the type of player that's going to give you 7 or 8 games and then pick something up, a wee niggle. So I felt it was the right idea. But Zungu seems to have been attracting a lot of attention and criticism, after the game. That maybe that was a mistake. The last time he started, I think, was the game against St Mirren in the Cup, which we lost. Now, in terms of his performance, I thought he played okay, but maybe didn't control the game in the same way as maybe, Brian Jack or Kamara or who am I thinking of here? Stephen Davis would. okay, but not commanding, so to speak, not imposing himself on the game. So after the game, Gerrard sort of suggested that he had to look at himself. You know, he maybe left too much quality on the bench. And me and you had a wee discussion on Twitter today about, you know, how much was left on the bench.
Yeah.
Do you think Gerrard got it wrong? Did he delete? I mean, I think Hamilton. If you're going to bring boys in, then Hamilton Acas is the team to do it against. Really, you know what I mean?
Well, arguably, yeah, it is. But I would argue that at this point there is no need to do that. I just don't think. I think it was an unnecessary risk to do it. I don't think, unless the players concerned are injured or unfit or, you know, running the risk of an injury, I don't think there was a need to change the team. I think what we want at this stage, with 6 games to go, is be playing the strongest team, get us over the line, and then start worrying about giving minutes to other players after that. Because the one important thing to do now is to get across the line. And if you've got players like Jack and Davis, especially sitting on the bench, they're not just players that come on and, you know, they're not just there for their ability on the park as players. They're there because they're part of the you know, they're strong personalities, they're big players, they're the players we're relying on to win the league. And I think when it comes to the business end of the season, they should be there on the pitch. Now, if you're talking about having to rest them, maybe that should have been done at less critical times. But now, whether it's Hamilton or otherwise, because it's arguable, maybe Hamilton are the easiest team to play because they're at the bottom of the league. But, you know, as Stewart said, you know, they're fighting for their lives now, so they've got everything to lose. They need to win games, and if they sense any kind of weakness at all, then, you know, they're going to play their hearts out to take it on. And, you know, Hamilton against Rangers is a different proposition from Hamilton against Motherwell, I suppose, or maybe Motherwell's not a good example, but, you know, when they're going to look, they're going to up their game when they've got a bigger game, I guess, is what I'm saying. So I just think it was a risk that they didn't need to take. I'm not making a scapegoat Zungu, because I don't, yeah, like you said, I don't think he was terrible today, but he's very passive. I don't think he's the kind of player that controls the game or stamps his authority in the game. He's good at, you know, the ball come through him, he can, you know, he'll knock it out to other players, but he doesn't, you know, grab hold of the game and you know, grab hold of the midfield, which is what you really want in a game like that. So yeah, I think it was a mistake, really. I think same as in the St Mirren game. I don't think there was any need to change the team dramatically in the St Mirren game. And having done that and seen it didn't work, I was really surprised to see the team today, because I just didn't think they would make that same mistake again. I would have thought we would just be trying our best to get the best 11 on the park and get the game won, and then make changes. You know, if you're 2 or 3-0 up, then you can give these fringe players more of a chance. In terms of Itten, I actually think he played okay. I thought he did fine when he was on. I don't think he was a disaster. In fact, I would have kept him on when Roof came on and played him out in the wide rather than taking him off and leaving Aribo on, to be honest. But that, you know, that was just my view on it. But yeah, I don't think Itten was necessarily the big mistake, but I do think we need to have guys like Jack, when he's fit, which he hopefully is, and Davis on the park controlling the game.
I just think what Ian's saying there is absolutely spot on. You pick you pick your best 11. You know, I don't think Hamilton is the easiest place to go. I don't think Hamilton are the easiest team to play against, especially at home as well. And I think, you know, I think sometimes there's too much caution of maybe Steven Gerrard thinking to himself, what players am I going to need further down the line, rather than what players do I need today? And again, I think Rangers have played and performed brilliantly this season, but they've done so by putting out their best team. And you give every team the same sort of credit and give every team the same level of attention. And I think just now you're looking to cement the results in this position that you're in. I know people will say, 20 odd points in front, this is fantastic. You're looking to basically get the title done and dusted as soon as possible. And I think if you make too many changes, you run this risk of that taking longer than it should.
I'm not saying it's going to happen, but if you were sitting at Celtic now and saying, well, a week ago or 2 weeks ago, they were probably thinking it was all dead. There's not a chance. Haven't got a hope. But they've won 2 games in a row. Arguably, they should have won those games, and that's not no big deal. But they'll look across and see that we've dropped points, didn't do particularly well last week, and that will give them just a tiny little bit of hope. And that's the last thing you want to do. You want them to be going out. You do what you do, but you want them to go out and not feel confident, not have anything to grab hold of, and then hopefully they'll drop points. And if they look across and see that we've dropped points, there's just that niggling doubt, I suppose. And I suppose that's how Rangers supporters are feeling at the moment, is because of how things fell apart last season. I think we're all sort of super nervous about it, maybe unnecessarily, but I think it's just that fear that it's going to give them a little bit more of a hope, where really we should just be relentlessly driving on, and no matter what they do, they should know that it doesn't matter, because Rangers are going to win every game and they'll have won the league before we need to play them again even.
I mean, well, what does that say, Stewart, about the squad? Because I do think, especially when you consider, the Europa League campaign starts again this month. Rangers and Steven Gerrard can't put out his strongest 11 every week. There has to be a level of rotation. I mean, someone like Zungu, they're talking about the option to sign him is $3 million. It's not like the guy is, some wet behind ears youngster. If we're going to take up the option to sign him, it's going to be a fairly significant fee. So what does that say about the depth of the squad? Because there has been a feeling this year that there is more depth to the squad. But if we're making 2 or 3 changes and we can't get past Hamilton Acas, who, with the greatest respect, I'm not in any way trying to, put them down or anything like that. But, it's a team that we would usually beat, especially at Hamilton. Any sort of success they've had over us over 20, 30 years has been at Ibrox. So does that say that the squad maybe doesn't have the strength and depth that we thought it did?
No, I think Steven Gerrard has assembled a squad that's as good as it's been, for a long, long time. I think maybe the fact that they haven't won anything, they might not be getting the credit that they actually deserve. And the fact that you look at the league table and Rangers haven't lost a game this far into the season tells you that there is something pretty decent about this squad. Also, he's fighting in 2 fronts. I would say now it's all well and good performing well in the Europa League, but ultimately you have got one big prize to go for, and that's the league title. And I would always concentrate on that. I've been critical of Rangers and how they've started matches. I'd also need to say I've been critical about Rangers and how they've closed out matches. Too often they've been rushed into, seeing out the last 20 minutes because they've conceded goals. Today they conceded a goal late on, and I think sometimes Rangers are looking for somebody. They have some good midfield players. I think they're really looking for somebody, and this might be a criticism of the guys that are there. You're looking for somebody who, after 75 minutes or 80 minutes, is really looking for the ball every single opportunity and just boss the game and shut the game down. I think that's I think ultimately that's what you're looking for, and I just don't think that's happening. And you're looking at experienced players not being able to do that either. I think I think just now we're at a situation where the big prize is almost there, and it's seeing it through. As Iain said, it's about seeing the job through, continuing what you've done. And I just think maybe there's a bit of a hiatus in the season for Rangers just now, where there's a lot of people and a lot of players have put a lot of hard work in, and it's now beginning to fatigue them. I don't think after today's game will be left in any doubt about what it might mean to somebody like Allan McGregor. I think that the sort of team chat that he might have had in the dressing room after today might have awoke a few to the fact that this is still to be won, and which again is no bad thing. But I think this was just a really flat performance, and you have to hope that this is the last one that you see this season.
Iain, on Allan McGregor, Stewart mentioned him there. I mean, another outstanding performance. Now, I mean, I think the stat came up today that he had more saves to make in one game today than he's had to make all season, which is quite remarkable when you consider the opposition. They're bottom of the league, they're struggling. and they really have. They've had a go and they've worked them. But again, it feels like someone like McGregor is the difference in these sort of title run-ins. I can't remember who I had the conversation with, but they pointed out, I think it might have been John, that they pointed out, that McGregor's a Callan influence. If a team get one or two chances, he's going to pull one or two great saves and keep you in a game. And he's done that today. It wasn't just one or two. It was probably 3, 4, or 5 today that he's pulled off and kept us in the game. A wee bit unlucky with the one that went in. But I mean, how important is someone like him to the squad? And the fact that I think his contract's coming to an end this season. The fact that there's been no noise about I'm signing a new deal, is that any concern to you?
Well, first of all, yeah. I mean, he's been massively important. I mean, I'll put my hands up and say when he was signed 3 years ago, whenever it was, or came back, I wasn't really in favour of it. I'd thought he'd passed his peak and that, we should be looking for someone else. And I'm quite happily put my hands up and say, I was completely wrong on that front, because he's been the difference, in loads of games. You say, today, he had 4 or 5 saves. Even other games where he's just had that one save, it's almost more impressive because, he's standing there doing nothing for 89 minutes and he pulls off a match-winning save, which is quite often what it is. So, he's been vital, and there's a strong case to be made that he's the player of the season. At this point, he would be the player of the season. So yeah, vitally important. I don't know what the situation is with his contract. Haven't heard anything, as you say, whether he's. I would be surprised if he didn't get offered another deal for next season if he wants to carry on playing, which I can't see any reason why he wouldn't. I'm pretty sure he would like another crack at the Champions League if we win the league. So I think that would be definitely something he would want to do before he retires, if that was what he was to do. And I don't see any reason why we wouldn't want to sign him. So, I can only just hope that it's just one of these things that's going along in the background and there's no news is good news kind of thing, because, there's nothing to talk about one way or the other. But yeah, I mean, he's been outstanding. You have to say. Better than he was first time around, I would say.
But that's actually something I was just about to say. I think there is a case to say he's been better this time around than he was the first time around. Sure, I mean, his interview afterwards sort of summed him up. He just looked, I think the phrase is pissed off. He looked thoroughly pissed off. 1 or 2 word answers, and you can just imagine what it would be like to deal with in the dressing room after a result like that. I mean, you got a wee sort of snippet of it. The camera was on him like 30 seconds after the whistle went, and you don't need to be a lip reader to see what he's saying. You know what I mean? He's livid that we've conceded so late in the game, and it's that kind of attitude, I think, that gets teams over the line.
You wonder. You actually wonder if he's got some sort of clean sheet contract that he doubles his money every week. That if he manages to keep a clean sheet, and you could basically see a few grand slipping through his fingers, so to speak. I think Iain is right in what he says about the scepticism about him returning. Goalkeepers can last a lot longer than outfield players, but you're looking at a kind of level of performance and what age he is and how he'll be. I think actually he will have turned in the kind of performances that would have, and I'm not talking about Iain here, don't take offence here, but would have silenced a lot of critics of him. I think you're actually seeing the professionalism that Allan McGregor possesses, currently. The whole thing first time around with, Walter Smith being livid at his antics at Hampden, being part of the Scotland squad, and they get him and Barry Ferguson get kicked out and all the rest of it. I think that a lot of people think, well, his off-field activities, let's say, are kind of mirrored on his on-field activities. Far from it. He's showing a level of dedication and professionalism and actually getting better with age, which only, as I say, only goes to show you how good he is. The other thing I'll say is that historically, it's not maybe the goals that you score that win you games, it's maybe the saves that your keepers make. And you have to go back to 92-93 season when Rangers won the domestic treble. Who was the Football Writers Player of the Year? Who was the Players Player of the Year that season? Andy Gorham. Andy Gorham didn't win those 2 titles for just basically turning up as Rangers steamroller teams. He won those two awards because he was an outstanding player and an outstanding team and who contributed to those victories. And I think you've seen the same with McGregor. And Ian's point there that he might be the player of the season. For me, I think there's any doubt that he has been the most consistent player at Ibrox all season and therefore the most consistent player in Scottish football.
I'm pretty sure there's a gag in there with Allan McGregor and clean sheets, but we'll not go there. You know, we have young kids watching sometimes. Iain, moving on to Ryan Kent, another kind of misfiring performance is maybe the kindest way of putting it. And he's, I don't know how you feel about Kent, but you know, I felt last season there was snippets. It felt to me like he was a 1-in-3, 1-in-4 games kind of guy. You would get a wee performance out of him once every 3 or 4 games. It made you think there was more there, and that if he could get consistency, you know, he would be a real player for us. At the start of this season, it looked like he'd found that consistency. He really kicked on and looked like he was going to be a sort of major player this season. But it's really sort of from, I would say, maybe late September, October time, he's really fell away. And there has been wee snippets. I thought he played well up at Pataudry. I thought he missed a really gilt-edged chance today. I think it was Ryan Jack played a great ball through and he put it past the post. You know, 7 million. That's a decent outlay for Rangers. And if we were putting it down to the money, I don't think we're getting value for money at the moment. You know, I think someone like Kent has to be more consistent and has to be giving us more, especially in games like this when we're huffing and puffing. You know, and it'd be interesting to hear what your view. I'm starting to see the odd wee negative comment coming back now when you're looking at comments on Twitter and stuff like that. I think we always have to try and be constructive when it comes to criticising players. So, you know, I'm not going to slate the guy, but when you consider what we're getting off of some other players, a lot who cost next to nothing or nothing, you know, Glenn Kamara, for example, 50 grand, and he's you know, week after week performing at a high level. 7 million, I don't think we're getting value for money from him right now.
Well, I'm always kind of reluctant to sort of judge a player by what we've paid for him, because it's not the player's fault. It's not the player, no. And you know that's just the way it is. And if we wanted that player, the manager wanted them. That was the value that his club put on him. So that's what we had to pay, basically. So that's not his fault. What, you know, is down to him is how he plays, regardless of his fee. And you know, I think he's playing okay in terms up to a point, but his final ball, whether it be a cross or a shot or a pass, is just letting him down. And I don't know whether that's a confidence thing or if it's just he's trying too hard or what. But I don't know. But it's clearly affecting his game overall. I mean, I think he's still a danger. I think when the ball comes to him, he still puts the opposition on the back foot, and that's a good thing. And I think he still is, you know, a player who can harm other teams, but he's just not lucky. I mean, there was a good example in the first half, I think, where he broke from our half quite far deep into our half and charged up the pitch, and in the end, I think he hit a shot. He overran it slightly, and he got a sort of weak shot away. And that was kind of seemed to sort of typify everything that's happening, because he up to a point he was fine, did the right thing, and then when it came to the making that final last decision or getting the final last shot away, he was either just unlucky or just made the wrong decision. And you know, at the end of the day, that's what he needs to get right, you know, and he can do all the great play up to that point, but if the end result isn't there, then what's the point? Up till now, I don't think we've had a player who we would say, well, let's drop him and put someone else in, because who's the alternative, or what is the alternative without changing the way we play? And I don't know if there is anyone who could do that. I suppose with the guy we've signed from Aberdeen, Wright, coming in now, maybe he's an alternative option. But I mean, and he looked quite tidy when he came on today, but I don't know what he's, you know, whether he's likely to be the answer in any way or not. But I think we can. I think we just need to keep plugging away with him, really, to be honest, and hope that he comes good, because he has, you know, like we say, he has the potential and he can turn it around, but he's just not getting there at this point.
Sure, mean, I agree with you, and I thought, I mean, we only got a wee snippet of him towards the end, but I thought, right, when he came on, looked good, and I actually thought he could have got a shot away in the closing stages. He should have, and he just, I think he panicked a wee bit and made the wrong choice. But
isn't that though exactly what we're saying about Kent though? I mean, that, you know, up to a point he's fine, and then, you know, so is that going to improve? You know, I don't want to get down in the guy. Sorry, I certainly don't want to get down in the guy. I don't want to get down in the guy. But there's anything wrong with that, obviously. But
somebody take that shovel off him, right? Sure, but there's you know, as extra competition in that area with Wright coming in, is that maybe something that Kent needs? You know, is he maybe not been challenged enough to earn his jersey?
Yes and no. You know, are you bringing somebody in to challenge him, or are you bringing somebody in that's going to damage his confidence? And that's a kind of, you know, sort of balancing act, juggling act that every manager does. I mean, I've said it often enough. In terms of a creative player, Ken is good. Ian's right. A player doesn't decide what transfer fee he's going for, so therefore there's pressure on him immediately. I mean, historically, his Rangers third biggest signing ever. You know, I mean, that's a hell of a onus to put on somebody, given where Scottish football is just now. And I sometimes, it frustrates me. Again, he's not in the, you know, other people are thinking, oh, he's fantastic. He's not in the top 10 wingers that I've ever seen in a Rangers jersey, and is nowhere near that just now. But you're looking for him to be, I sometimes think he's the only creative source that Rangers actually have. Hence, if he's not actually having a good game, Rangers maybe don't have a good game. I think there's a lot put on him and placed on his shoulders to come up with it week in, week out. The fact of the matter is, if he was able to do it week in, week out, he wouldn't be at Ibrox. He'd still be at Anfield. And I think people have to recognise that. But he's still a force that you're looking to maybe create a wee bit more. The right when he came on, I do think he should have taken a shot. I mean, what's the worst thing that's going to happen to him? He's either going to get shouted at or he's going to score in his debut, and he looked in a better position to score in his debut than fall out with people. So I think it'll be good if once he gets a few more minutes under his belt, and once Steven Gerrard shows him that he's actually there to make a difference and actually to play games and play minutes rather than just as backup to Kent.
Iain, I think overall, you know, again, the reaction, I find it quite disheartening at times the way some people are reacting. You know, it's, don't get me wrong, disappointing result against a team that, you know, all the money was on us beating. But, you know, some of the comments are just like, you know, we're still 21 points clear. We're still in a really, really good position. You know, I'm actually fearful to think what supporters would be like if we were in, you know, a sort of title race like McLeish against O'Neill. You know what I mean? Where, you know, one drop point could actually cost you the title. You know, I don't know how supporters would be like that, but I suppose we've had a moan about today. You know, it's disappointing. We've got to take it on the chin and move on. It's all about the reaction. It's all about how we, you know, we've got 2 home games coming up in the league over February against Kilmarnock and Dundee United. It's all about getting the points in those games and moving on again.
I've said that after the 2 sort of major blips this season were, well, 3 I suppose if you count the Benfica game, where I was really disappointed that we ended up not winning that game, which is, you know, in itself is sort of tells you how positive the season is. But, you know, if you take that as a negative, plus the Livy game, plus the St Mirren game, I said after every one of those, it's not the result in that game that matters, it's how we react to it. And on every occasion, we reacted really well and came back, bounced back, and won the next game convincingly and went on a bit of a run, I think, afterwards. So that's what you need. So we've got an opportunity here, 2 home games against teams that, well, arguably we should beat every team, but two home games against teams that we really need to be beating at home. That's a perfect opportunity to get back into the swing of things. I think, you know, if we win those 2 games, then everyone will settle down again, or even if we win the next game, probably everyone will settle down again and be a bit more confident. And, you know, it just needs to get that consistency back again and get back on a level sort of footing really again. Touched on European game briefly. I would say that the European games now, while it's amazing and brilliant to be still in Europe, are pretty irrelevant. I don't really care what happens as long as we don't get hammered. I'm quite comfortable to be resting players for those European games rather than worrying about resting them for league games, because it's the league games that are now the most important thing. We just need to get that title won, and the Europa League is a nice bonus, but it's a side issue really as far as I'm concerned.
Sure, would you agree with that? Rest of the players in the Europa League and.
I mean, what a position to be in. I mean, a couple of years ago, you're talking about Elgin City and
yeah,
and I mean, honestly, I think there are some Johnny come latelys that don't realise the kind of journey that Rangers have been through. They're seeing it, they've maybe only seen Rangers over the last couple of seasons, 3 seasons, because Steven Gerrard is the manager, other than a whole mishmash of other guys that were the head coaches at Ibrox. I think maybe they focused their attention on how good Steven Gerrard was as a player and how he's trying to make it as a manager. Therefore, they reckon that he should succeed, and therefore Rangers should succeed, without actually realising, and I hate using the terminology, but the journey that Rangers have been on. It's the fact that Rangers are fighting in 2 fronts, one going for a league title, and the second one is playing after Christmas, New Year in the Europa League, says everything about where Steven Gerrard is taking this team. Iain's right. The priority would be, what's the biggest prize? The biggest prize is the league title. That's you in terms of top trumps. It's the only card you want to be playing in Glasgow, let alone the rest of Scotland or anywhere else. And for that matter, I think that's why just now the performance level is disappointing, but take a step back and look at the performance levels right through the season, it's been quite extraordinary.
Right, guys, before we move on, I need to highlight the partnership that Gersnet have with Football Prizes. Frankie, his Twitter always sort of shows you the next one that's available. I spoke about the Brian Laudrup jersey on Friday night in the preview show. The tickets for that have sold out, but there'll be other ones coming up, so keep your eye out on Frankie's Twitter feed, and you'll see what comes up. It's normally like a signed shirt, framed and all the rest of it. Very classily done. And I think it's a £5 a ticket, $5.95 a ticket. But there's only so many tickets, and the Brian Laudrup one has gone. It's sold out. So keep your eyes out for the next one. Iain, on to after the game today, there's the sort of rumblings of the Kemar Roof challenge from Wednesday night against St Johnstone. Steven Gerrard confirmed after the game today that the club plan to appeal it, and I think they've got till tomorrow to do that. I mean, I spoke to Alex again on Friday about this, and it is causing a lot of controversy. There does seem to be a lot of inconsistency. Rangers recently have been sort of walking away from this, in terms of they've accepted the charges. They accepted the one with Morelos. Steven Gerrard said last week, no case to answer. They weren't happy with how it was only Morelos that was cited. There were similar incidents in the game at Easter Road, and only one was pulled up. But it seems that they're taking a different approach to this one. They're obviously not very happy with this one. Would you agree with I don't think anyone could disagree that Roof was lucky to stay in the park. I mean, it was a bad tackle. I don't think he meant it. I don't think there was any malice. But he's undoubtedly caught the guy. But do you think the club are right to appeal that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think you're right. I mean, you can't argue that if you got a red for that, nobody would have any reason to argue with it at all, really. I don't think. I mean, obviously some people would, but generally speaking, I don't think you would argue that if the referee gave that. But he didn't. He gave him a yellow card. The referee clearly saw it. I mean, we've all seen the pictures of the referee staring straight at the incident. He saw it. He gave a yellow card. So, as far as I'm concerned, that's where it should end. And quite how the SFA have managed to sort of come up with this concept of the referee saw the incident and gave a yellow card, but somehow didn't see it. I don't know, but that's, I suppose, the SFA for you. But I think there's a point here that, games, I don't want to see games re-refereed. I'm not interested in really, to be honest, unless there's some sort of off-the-ball incident where somebody punches somebody or something like that. For the normal run of the game, I don't think you can start re-refereeing it. So if the referee sees an incident, gives a yellow card, and they move on, that's how it should end. I don't think it's fair. And if you are going to do that, then you have to do it with everyone. And everyone's seen all the inconsistencies, all the incidents that go unseen, all the incidents that probably happen every game that don't get highlighted on TV or don't get discussed for hours on TV by pundits or in the papers and the days afterwards. So we've all seen those incidents. We know the inconsistencies. If they're going to re-referee games after the event, then they have to do every single incident in every single game. Otherwise, it's not fair. It's unfair to everyone. And I would say that no matter who's getting cited for whatever. So yeah, I think they're right to appeal it, and I think I don't know whether they'll be successful or not. I don't know. I would have thought they would be, but you know, who knows?
Sure. I mean, this seems to be a thing that's. I mean, it's not just the roof incident. This seems to be something that's been rumbling on. Not just this season. You know, Rangers have had serious concerns about the previous compliance officer. When I was speaking to Alex on Friday night, one of the comments that we were sort of talking about was, it feels like it's becoming predictable when you see incidents from games. You know, based on what club it is, who's going to face possible retrospective action and who's not. You know, I know other sort of pundits would describe that as whataboutery and all the rest of it, but surely there has to be a sort of some basis for consistency here. And if one club is concerned, and I think it's more than one now, to be honest, you know, I get the impression that more than one club in the background is raising concerns about, you know, several governance issues within Scottish football. But if clubs have got concerns about this, then surely, you know, it has to be addressed. There has to be an overall review of how this process is operated, because it is inconsistent. And I think the game at Easter Road shows that. You know, the incident with Morelos, which again I don't think many Rangers supporters would say he was lucky not to get sent off. But then you have an identical incident with Allan McGregor, which doesn't get cited. And there was also an incident in that game with Ryan Porteous when he sort of stamped on Ryan Jack. So supporters are seeing similar incidents in games, but there's different outcomes.
Yeah, the other day there, Stephen Gerrard asked for consistency, and I tweeted that the only consistency he's likely to get is a continued inconsistency. And I also said I didn't think it was double standards either. I just thought it was like ineptness. And then later on that day, I kind of changed my mind, and I said that, you know, after today's news regarding Kemar Roof, you know, I might amend my previous take. And the SFA have turned their selectivity into a damning indictment, and it is the selective in what they look at and how they look at these things. There are instances, as Iain says, right through the entire season. If you really want to re-referee matches, go ahead and do it, but be even-handed, and also do it in such a way that you're seen to be even-handed. I think just now, you know, Rangers have appealed this decision, whether they're successful or not. You know, who can tell? Probably not. I would caution. But the thing is, you have to challenge this. You have to say, look at this, look at X, Y, and Z. The fact that you have they will do so as Rangers fans, but the fact that you've got football fans able to turn their hand to doing a bit of editing and coming up with photographs and coming up with footage of challenges that are every bit as serious and every bit as bad as anything that the Rangers players have been cited for, I think tells you everything you need to know about the current situation. It's reaching a desperate stage. Scottish football is now starting to toil because of this. And that's not being overly dramatic. The fact of the matter is that you're looking at people watching the officials in Scottish football and basically saying, these guys don't know what they're doing. Not only do they not know what they're doing, then they also have a governing body behind them that doesn't know what they're doing. So I think Rangers are right to appeal this one. They should be successful. I doubt if they will be successful, but as long as they keep shining a light on these inconsistencies, then something you would like to think will happen. And the other thing is, Iain says that the referee takes a decision and books Roof because of what he's seen. Now, if he's then being corrected by the SFA, why is that referee not stood down for the next match?
Yeah.
Simply because he's not good enough. That is one of the things that is always stuck in my craw, that a referee or one of his assistants can be shown to be poor and consistently poor, yet nothing ever happens. They're never demoted. They're never sent away to do a refresher course. And the notice of complaint, that almost contradicts itself as well, saying that that there was if there had been a sending off offence that was not seen by any of the match officials, then the SAFA could react to that, except it was seen. And I think that these double standards and able to select what decisions you're going to revisit isn't a good place that Scottish football's in, and it certainly isn't a good place if it affects one team more than anyone else.
I mean, what if they should be honest? If they're going to take that line, they should be honest, the SFA, and say a referee saw that incident, gave a yellow card, but we don't think that actually was right. We think he was merited more than that. The referee got it wrong, and we're going to give him a red card for that because the referee made a mistake. And as a result, the referee, the player will get a ban, and the referee will have sanctions in some way, or whatever sanctions referees get. But they won't do that because they want to cover their own backs and their own referees' backs as well. So they come up with this cockeyed idea that the referee somehow saw it but didn't see it.
Yeah,
so it just makes them look ridiculous, and But then we're talking about Scottish football governance.
It was like years ago. It was like years ago when Graham Souness had been banned from the touchline, and at half time he came down out the stand and stood in the tunnel. Now it was STV Scott Sport cameras that picked him up standing in the tunnel. And then on Monday morning, all of a sudden, he got a letter from the SFA to explain himself because the head of the Referees Association, or whatever it was, Jack Mowat, had seen Souness in the tunnel. One, he couldn't have seen him from where he was sitting because it was impossible to see anybody in the tunnel. You only picked up by TV cameras. And secondly, Jack Mowat couldn't see the end of the room. Never mind the what was happening down in the tunnel. So Iain's absolutely spot on. If you've made a mistake and it's a genuine mistake, say so. Don't try and come up with some, trying to manipulate and manufacture some kind of statement that makes it look as if it's you've always been in the right when you've actually primarily been in the wrong. But at least be honest about it.
I think the thing that I find disturbing is the wee loopholes that they find that get them, what you understand as the rules, and what Iain said there earlier on was, the referee's seen it and he's booked him, and everyone, even sports scene, we're the club that are, famously get the trial by sports scene thing. Like, even they were saying, well, he probably should have had a red card, but he's not going to because the referee's seen it. The referee's taking action, so that's it. They can't take any retrospective action, and then they find some wee bizarre loophole that no one knew existed to actually take retrospective action. But Iain, is there maybe bigger things at play here? Is there maybe a bit of a power struggle going on in the background? Chris Sutton's come out and said that Rangers are trying to run the game. There's been previous issues. Rangers have issued they were demanding an inquiry a few months ago. Some other clubs are recently have issued statements that they're not really happy with the governance of the game and all that kind of thing. Is there maybe a bit of a power struggle here? Peter Law stepping down from Celtic, so there's a kind of feeling that maybe Celtic will lose some sway in the higher echelons, Scottish football. Is there maybe other things at play here? Is this maybe just the tip of the iceberg, and there's other things going on in the background?
Your guess is good as mine, to be honest. I don't know, but I mean, clearly, Rangers haven't made any secret of the fact that they want change in the way that Scottish football's run. Certainly the SPFL, and I think this is probably part of the overall discontent that Rangers and others have got. I don't have an awful lot of sympathy for the other clubs involved because they all had the opportunity to make some form of change 9 months ago or whenever it was, and didn't take the opportunity. So maybe it's down to Rangers to do that. But in this particular case, I don't think it's necessarily part of a sort of behind the scenes struggle. I just think it's the ongoing discontent and unhappiness with the way the systems are run, which contributes to the overall unhappiness with how Scottish football's run. And you know, I don't know whether Peter Lawler's standing down from Celtic. I would be surprised if he's retiring from public life, as they say. I wouldn't be at all surprised to see him have a more significant role in Scottish football in months to come. But I don't know. I think, you know, there's clearly discontent and unhappiness with the way things are run, and I think this is a little bit part of that. But it's a separate issue in itself, and I think Rangers are right to make a stand against it.
What's the solution then, Stuart? How do we move forward? Because, you know, it's been rumbling on for a while now, and I think Stephen Gerrard was quite clever in pointing out last week, you know, that the club, you know, they are trying to turn down the noise in this. You know, we're not statement FC anymore. You know, we're not coming out with statement after statement. It seems to be that we're taking a different approach to this, but it's obviously irking the club, and we need to find a solution.
What Iain said there about other teams, you know, I was reminded, or it came out of my head about an episode of Taxi, when the Reverend Jim, having stated all these various facts and been challenged on one of them, said, "You mean I was right?" You know, and I think that's the situation with Rangers. Rangers were, you know, I think slowly but surely people are coming round to thinking that Rangers were absolutely spot on when they challenged the SFA in terms of how they run their business, simply because it's affected and afflicted other clubs as well. I can see Peter Lawwell will still be a representative of Celtic when it comes to the SFA and the SPFL. He'll do the same as one or two others have done, retired from, as Iain says, public office, and continued within the auspices of the SFA. If there is a power struggle there, well, you know, I might just buy some popcorn and sit back and watch how that one plays out. But I mean, for Chris Sutton to come out and say that Rangers are trying to dictate how Scottish football's run, I mean, if ever there was a statement to try and keep yourself relevant, that was it.
Right, guys, I thought we would finish off, try and be in a sort of positive mood and get away from the controversy, you know, the SFA and all that kind of stuff, and look to the upcoming fixtures in February. You know, supporters are, you know, a wee bit disgruntled today, you know, with the result today, and even I've even seen one or two saying, "Oh, that's it, you know, we're going to start dropping points and all that kind of thing." The next two league games in February, we've got Killie at home, Dundee United at home. Two very, very winnable ties. Now, I think Allan McGregor was saying today, you know, that the team just need to focus on the next game, and that's it. You know, focus on that game, win, and then move on to the next one. And that's fair enough. But we as supporters can go a wee bit beyond that. So we're going to look at the next month. When we get into March, there's a couple of tricky away games. We're at Livingston, and they're flying now. You know, they're doing really, really well. And then obviously we've got the Celtic game sort of a couple of weeks after that, and sort of towards the end of March. How important is it that we just win? You know, get back on track, win these two games in February, and get that good feeling. And does European football provide just a wee bit of, not a bad distraction, but something? It seems to me that Rangers' slight dip in form has coincided with the Europa League stopping. It seemed to me when we were playing Sunday, Thursday, there was just a rhythm about the team, and we were playing really, really well. Since that's tailed off, we've tailed off. So does European football help get us back up to a decent standard again?
I see where you're coming from with that. I mean, having just said that, I think if we're going to rest players, it should be in Europe then. But you know, I take on board what you're saying. I think it's all about momentum, isn't it? It's just winning games again, building up a level of performance. You know, over a course of a league season, you're always going to have dips in form. Players will have dips, teams will have dips. You know, you hope that too many of your players don't have a dip at the same time. I think today was an example where 9 out of 11, potentially, maybe even 10, were having dips on the day at the same time. So you just want that, you hope that that's not going to happen. But I think, you know, it's all about getting momentum. As I said before, the next two games, 2 home games against teams that we should be beating at home quite comfortably. I think, you know, people are just absolutely crapping themselves, I think, really. I think that's what it comes down to. Anything that goes wrong, well, just thinking everything's going to go pear-shaped. And I honestly generally don't think that is going to be the case. And I think everyone needs to just sort of relax and chill out a wee bit. But at the same time, I completely understand where they're coming from, because we've seen it before, and it's been so long since we've won the league that anything that looks like it might sort of derail that is going to be jumped on, and people are going to panic about it. I think, the answer is don't panic. Just let the players get back and get back into the rhythm again, and hopefully get winning games again. 2 good wins in the next 2 games. People will have forgotten that we drew against Hamilton 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago. That's how football works. It's just about getting back into the swing of things and recovering properly and moving on.
Sure, I'll leave the last word to you. I found a wee video the other day there of the 2nd of May 1999 when Rangers went to Celtic Park and won the league 3-0. Now that's considered, that was Dick Advocaat's side. That's considered one of the best sides over the last sort of 20, 30 years. A huge amount of money spent on it. And we won the league that day by securing our 72nd point. We've already surpassed that, and we're only in February. The supporters, I think Ian's right. I think a lot of supporters, because we've been so long and waiting for this, and the journey's been so torturous, and there's so much happened with Rangers over the last 10 years that supporters are nervous. But do we need to actually just appreciate this bunch of players and this manager and let them get on with it? Because if they continue the way I think it's 5-6 wins and the title's ours. We're nearly there. I think we just need to get behind them and trust them. I think
you need to take into account the sort of context of where this Rangers team are and what they've done. You can only beat who is put in front of you. And I would have to say that in the last 5 years, 6 years, whatever it might be in Scottish football, I think in general the standard has slipped. Therefore, a decent Rangers team would perform much better than, how can I say it, they might actually be. Compared to the Advocaat side, I think if you put light for light on the pitch just now, I would still put my money on Advocaat's team. I think, however, what has happened in the last decade in terms of Rangers, I think there's a nervousness now amongst a great many Rangers fans who have stuck with the club through thick and thin and who have been Rangers fans for a very, very long time. It's not a 2-horse race. This is the equivalent of the kind of 1973 Grand National when Chris was about 8 miles in front of Redrum, and Redrum came up in the rails and won it. And Rangers fans are hoping deal with that doesn't happen. I think it's very difficult to look at this season and still see the likes of Celtic as genuine challengers. They are, but they're so far in your rear view mirror that you're almost like having nightmares. You're almost fearing fear itself. Yeah. And I think that's the issue just now for Rangers supporters. Yeah, and I mean, obviously a disappointing result today, but I think we need to remember where we are and how well the players have done this season. Guys, looking at the time there, and I think that's just about us for tonight. So a big thanks to Iain and Stewart for their contributions there. Brilliant stuff from them as always. We'll try and get a preview show out next week for the Kilmarnock game, so we'll look for that on the Friday night, and obviously we'll have the flagship show out on the Sunday afterwards as well. In the meantime, get yourself over to the Gersnet website and forums at www.gersnet.co.uk. Guys, as I say, he's every week now in this lockdown trauma. Look after yourselves, stay safe, and until next time, bye for now.